Friday. My name is Sandy Roberts, and I'm the Makerspace Coordinator for the Warren County Library System. And I'm here with Friday STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. We're going to be using all of those things together to create something new, to innovate, to invent, and to have a lot of fun. This month, we have Earth Day coming up. So all of our Friday STEAMs for April are going to be centered on green and growing and upcycled gardening activities. We're going to get started with something really simple today. We're going to make some nice little newspaper pots to start our seeds in. Now, the fun thing about these is that who doesn't have scrap newspaper sitting around? That can be used. You can plant this pot right into the ground when it gets warm enough, and it will break down and get your seeds started. So this is the perfect time of year to start some seeds for your vegetable garden or some flower seeds inside in a sunny window, so that when it gets warm enough out and there's no more chance of frost, you can get a garden going. Everybody should have a garden, in my personal opinion, okay? It's a wonderful way to get to grow exactly what you like for your family, and it's a whole lot of fun to see it happen. So what do we need today? We're going to start with our tools. We're going to need a pen to mark things, a good pair of scissors, or if you happen to have a paper cutter or a rotary cutter like this for paper, you can use that too. That will make this go a little bit faster. You need a ruler, okay? You're going to need a small can. This is actually for tomato paste. It's about 6 ounces. You don't want something too big, okay? You want something that's, a small peat pot size. A soda can work, anything. Obviously, this one's still brand new. I just took the label off. If you do use a can that's already been opened, make sure you use some tape, masking tape, for example, around the top so you don't cut your fingers. So you're going to need one of those. That's going to be the mold for our pot. That's going to shape our pot. You're going to want a bit of masking tape to hold things together, which we'll remove before planting, but it's really helpful when you're making these. Some newspaper pamphlets. You don't want the glossy kind. You want the nice matte kind from your newspaper or from sales flyers. Generally, you want to make sure that they're not using a lead-based ink. Almost no one uses a lead-based ink anymore. Mostly they're soy. But if you're concerned, check the website for that newspaper or give them a call. Often they'll actually have it written on there somewhere if it's a soy-based ink, okay? But yeah, you want to kind of just check in on that. You don't want to go putting anything into the ground that could contaminate your garden. And then last but not least, this is just a little takeout container, a little plastic takeout container. And we're going to put all of our pots together in here for watering and to keep them together. It also helps the pots hold together. You want something that's plastic or glass, okay? Or you could probably use aluminum trays too. Just you don't want to have any holes in it because you don't want your water to leak out. And you don't want it to be paper because that could start to break down or get waterlogged or soggy too. So you're going to want something like that. All right. All of this is all about germination. Okay, germination is just a fancy word for a seed starting to grow. So why don't we take a moment to learn about the science of germination?
Germination is that moment when a plant begins to grow, when it goes from being a seed waiting to a plant newly forming. So let's learn a little bit more about that. All right, inside our seed, we have everything a seed needs to get started. It includes food, it includes its first leaves and roots and stem, and it's all kept together in this hardened seed coat. Okay, and different seeds have different kinds of seed coats. One thing they all have in common, though, is a tiny little spot that a little bit of water can get in when the setting is right, when everything is just right. Okay, inside our seed, we have what's called the embryo. Okay, and this is literally like a little baby plant ready to go. The radicle here is the first root that will, when the seed coat gets soft and it's ready to germinate, it'll pop out. The hypocotyl, okay, is the early stem, and the epicotyl are the first leaves. Okay, those are the ones that will actually do photosynthesis and allow the growing plant to make its own food. Now, a lot of our seed, as you can see, is taken up by the cotyledon. Okay, the cotyledon are the very first leaves that come out from a seed, but they can't do photosynthesis. They can't make their own food. Instead, they're packed with lots of starch and proteins and fats, and that's what gives a new plant its first food. It's also the reason why we like to eat seeds. Things like popcorn are very starchy and actually have sugars in there. So when we eat seeds as food, we're eating the food that was meant to become the food for a plant someday later. All right, so the actual process of germination. That seed, when it's in soil usually, okay, and it has just the right amount of water and just the right amount of warmth. Each seed knows what temperature it needs to start for germination. And that's usually pretty warm. As soil temperatures heat up in the spring, as the sun warms up the soil in the spring, that's when the seed is activated. And that little bit of water comes in through that seed coat, and our radicle, that first root, will emerge into the soil. Eventually, it will start putting on these little tiny root hairs, and their job is to kind of make this network out through the soil to start taking in nutrients and to bring in more water, because water is really important to that young plant. That hypocotyl, okay, eventually will poke out away from the soil, carrying with it the cotyledon, okay, that first leaf. As that cotyledon kind of gets eaten up, it'll drop away. The epicotyl will come on up. Those first leaves will come up out of the ground, and you'll have the pumel, which is the very first leaves opening up. Once that happens, photosynthesis starts to happen, and the plant becomes able to feed itself with sunlight. Okay, and that's really important because that's really how it's going to be able to grow. Meanwhile, those root hairs are becoming small roots so they can bring in all the water and all the nutrients that our plant needs. Now, plants need a couple of things to grow. Obviously, they need water. That's for any living organism. We all need water to survive. They need sunlight because once these leaves are on, they need that sunlight because they turn sunlight through a chemical process called photosynthesis into sugar, which is a pretty cool ability. It's a plant superpower. And then they need soil for the nutrients. But as you probably know, you don't absolutely have to use soil. You can do hydroponics, which is growing in a liquid media. The important thing is the soil provides two things. Okay, it provides all the nutrients a plant needs. It can't go and walk over and get like a multivitamin, okay? It needs to get all of its nutrients from whatever it's growing in. It also gives the plant structure to hold it up so it can reach towards the sun. And that's something important when we grow hydroponically, which you may remember from last year this time. You need to be able to give those roots something to hold on to and grow in just to hold up the plant. All right, so you can try this at home, believe it or not. If you take some bean seeds, lima beans are the best for this, but pretty much any bean will work. And here you can see that little hole I told you about where the water comes in. You're going to place some damp paper towels into a sandwich bag, not super like soaking wet, damp, well and good and damp, but not like drippy. And you're going to put a couple of seeds, maybe 5 seeds in that bag. Seal that bag up because you don't want everything getting out of there and falling out. And then just tape it to a sunny window, okay? Give it a couple of days. And what you should observe is the beginning of that germination process, okay? It's a little hard to see when we start our seeds in potting soil for the garden. We can't see this whole process, but it's really fun to get to witness. The other thing you can do is after some of these seeds start to get moist and you can see their seed coats becoming wrinkly, you can take 1 or 2 out and just gently pry them apart, okay, where their seed coat is ready to split. And you'll be able to see all the parts of a seed that we talked about. You'll actually be able to see them on the inside, which is really, really fun to do. So if you do that, if you do either of these experiments, make sure you post your pictures and tag Warren Lib, okay, so we can see all the cool things you're growing. All right, let's get back to starting our garden.
Welcome back. So as we just learned, most seeds just need 3 things to get started. They need soil, they need water, and they need light. I forgot to bring up the soil before. This is a basic potting soil with a little bit of organic fertilizer in it. It's perfect for this project. You probably have some sitting around from last year, and if you don't, hardware stores are all considered essential. You can ask them to bring some out to your car and buy that. In a pinch, if you have your parents' permission, okay, you can go into the backyard or your front yard and dig up a little bit of dirt. Just make sure that there are no creepy crawly worms or anything like that hanging out in there. You want to keep them in the soil where they want to be outside. So you can use dirt from your yard if you need to. This is better because it's sterilized. You don't have to worry about any kind of mold or anything growing in there. And it's also nice and loose, which brings me to the other thing. You want something, if you are using soil from your garden or from your yard, something that's nice and kind of fluffy, dark colored, okay, nothing too sandy or too clay, because you want to give the roots space to be able to move out. You want there to be some air trapped in that soil, and you want the water to be able to move through it. So potting soil is best. If you can't get your hands on potting soil, you make it work, okay? Oh, my hands are dirty. That's what I'm looking for this time of year. Spring and dirty hands. All right, let's get to work. We're gonna start with our paper. And this is kind of where some of the math and measuring comes in. All right, we're just gonna lay our paper out on our table. You wanna make sure that it's not just a single sheet like this. You wanna use a couple of sheets. So between 2 and 4 sheets of paper is what we're aiming for. That way it has enough structure to hold the pot up. Too little and it's just gonna be too weak and it's not gonna work out so great for you. So I like to start from the square edge, and I take my ruler, and I'm gonna need my can. Let's find out how tall our can is. Use my ruler. This can is about 3.5 inches or 8.5 centimeters. So I'm gonna cut my paper to about that length, but I'm not gonna wrap my paper around this can all the way up to the edge. And the reason for that is we need some paper on the bottom to fold for the bottom of the pot. And if we cover all the way up to the edge, it's very hard to pull our can out from our mold, from our pot. So let's make sure when we roll that we're not actually trying to get bigger than the can and that we leave plenty hanging off the bottom. But for now, let's use our ruler, and we're just gonna measure in a couple of spots along here, 3.5 inches. And that's what I'm gonna use my pencil for, 3.5 inches. And we're just gonna make some dots or some marks or some little lines as we go. And then use our ruler. We're gonna line up between 2 of our dots or our dashes and draw a nice straight line. We're gonna do that again over here. Okay, nice straight line. Okay, now we're gonna grab our scissors, right, and cut right on down that line. And this is where it's handy to have that rotary cutter or a paper cutter, because sometimes you can just make this go a little faster if you're making a lot of little pots, but it's not a hard thing to do. Okay, now we can move our paper and our ruler out of the way and grab our little can. What we're gonna do is wrap the paper around our can. Do it this way so you can see. But you don't want to go all the way up to the edge of the can, right? You want to hold it down a little bit, about an inch. You can measure your thumb, that first knuckle's about an inch. And as you can see here, turning it around, I'm letting it hang off the bottom of the can, okay? Because we're going to need that to fold in to make the bottom of our pot. So you're just going to go ahead, okay, checking my inch there, and roll, roll, roll. These don't have to be perfect, okay? They're going to go in the ground and rot anyway. But you just kind of line it up, give it a roll around your little can. Now, this is the tricky part, okay? We're gonna fold the bottom in. So if you've ever wrapped presents, this is pretty easy. You're gonna fold down from the top, okay, and crease it. Okay, fold up from the bottom, crease that, and then over and over. All right? Now, if all has gone well, everything should hold together. Okay, no problem. If it's loosening up or you're finding it hard to fold the bottom while holding the side, that's what the masking tape is for. You can put a little piece of masking tape right here and it will hold everything together. Just make sure you remove it before you plant these. That adhesive really isn't great for your garden. Now, just to make sure my bottom is nice and strong, I'm gonna press, okay, that down and remove my can. So now I've got a nice little pot. I'm gonna put it right next to this other one. I like to use circular containers like this because I can pack in all my little pots and they kind of hold each other up and hold themselves together. And I find that that's a little helpful, so I don't have to worry about my pots falling over. Now, time to do my favorite part, get our hands dirty. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add my potting soil. Now remember, you don't want to fill your soil all the way up to the top. This is a great thing to do outside on the deck or in the backyard so we don't make a mess of our living room or our kitchen or wherever we're working. So save this for a nice sunny day. I'm going to fill that up, again, about 1/2 inch. I'm going to leave maybe a little more depending on what kind of seeds I'm putting in there. I don't want to fill it all the way to the top. If you fill it all the way to the top when you go to water, that water is going to flow out of the pot instead of staying in there and soaking down in. All right, now I've got my seeds. I'm going to plant some cucumber seeds, but really just about anything you want to get started, you could put in there. So take a look at what grows in your area, what needs to be planted in maybe late April or early May. Those are the perfect seeds to get started now, so they are grown, they have nice strong roots, and they're ready to go into the ground after all chance of frost is gone. And I know the weather's been a little crazy on that, but you can check online at your cooperative. There's always a chart of exactly when you can expect the last frost dates. So just check that out. Cucumber seeds, I'm going to read the back, and this actually says I need 4 to 5 seeds per hill, and then I'm going to thin them out to just 3. So I'm going to plant 4 or 5 seeds in my pot and let them grow, and before I actually plant them outside, I'll probably pick the top 3, the strongest 3, and cut the others out with a little pair of scissors. This says I need to plant them 1/2 inch deep. So I'm going to just use my fingers and make a nice little hole. Okay. And the dirt smells really good. I'm going to just put my seeds in my hand. Look at that. Perfect. I've got 5 little seeds there. Just going to put them in. I don't want to put them all right on top of each other. Kind of give them a little bit of space there. Okay. And I'm just going to push the soil back in. Add a little bit more so I know that they have 1/2 inch of soil on top of them. Press it down gently, putting them to bed. You don't want to pack the soil in too much because you want those seedlings to be able to spread out, send their roots out, send their stalk up so that they can get sunlight with those first leaves, right? So don't feel that you need to press that soil down really, really hard. You just kind of want to make sure that it's not going to fall out. All right. All you're going to do is water this. Okay, you don't want it to get soggy, but you want to keep it moist. You can even add a little water to the bottom of your tray and it will keep all of that nice and moist. And just keep an eye on them. Find a nice sunny spot in your house, away from any critters. I know I have cats and they like to chew the tops off my seedlings, so I have to be really careful. I tend to put them in a bathroom upstairs. I don't let them in. But you can find a nice sunny spot, I'm sure. If you have a grow light, that's a great thing. You can set that up and give these all the light they need. You can grow flowers this way, veggies, pretty much anything you imagine. And these don't have to go in a big garden plot. If all you have is a couple of containers on a deck or on a balcony or your front porch, that's a great way to get started. Okay, growing your own food is such a rewarding thing to do, and it's very easy and inexpensive, especially if you make your own items, which is what we're going to be featuring this month. Also keep in mind, 2 p.m. on Monday is Maker Monday, and that's when we really focus on just inventing something new and making our own thing. This upcoming Monday, in honor of Earth Day, we'll be making tiny terrariums out of glass jars, so be sure to come on back for that. Check the event page on the Warren County Library System Facebook page, okay, for all the materials you need each week. I look forward to seeing you all virtually next week. I miss you all. I hope that you're staying safe and healthy. Get out there, enjoy spring, start a garden, and I'll see you next week.